Well, family, my name is Vic and I'm powerless. Thank you for having me, Glenn. I want to get myself out the way first. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. My creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Like I said, my name is Vic and I'm powerless. I really appreciate you asking me to come out here, Glenn. I've never done a lead this long, so I'm gonna try to go as long as I can. You might hear some things that I've never said. I'm just gonna let God take me where he takes me to. It'll end when it ends. Um, you know, I was born in Macon, Georgia. My mom got pregnant with me at an early age, and back in the 70s, what they did was they sent her down to my great grandmother in Georgia. And when she had me, we returned back to Akron, Ohio. And when we returned back, my grandmother and grandfather were my mom and dad on my birth certificate. And my grandfather made a decision, and it was the best one that he could make with the situation that he had in order to get that he had to give me a chance at life and to give my mom a chance at life too. So I'm not upset about that. So there was a period of time that I grew up where I thought my mom was my sister. And a lot of people did. A lot of church people thought that my mom was my sister. And so I grew up like that for quite a while. And I was just a bad egg. I grew up spoiled, getting anything I want. All I had to really do is think it, and my grandfather would give it to me. I was the first one on the street with the Atari, first one with the green machine, and I just grew up spoiled. And towards the end of grade school, I experimented with my first bit of marijuana, and a couple years later, we would sneak a beer out the house, on the paper route, and we drink the beer. I never really cared for beer. It really wasn't that great for me, but it was the thing to do. Everyone was doing it, and I just wanted to be a part of. So we may get some pink champagne, and a couple 40 ounces, and we drink that. But for the most part, we had to have some marijuana involved for me to even put my money in to go half when I was young. I remember stealing a couple cigarettes. My grandmother smoked Benson and Hedges menthols and long. Oh, I mean, them things was long too. And me and my cousin Ernie, it was a car. My cousin stayed directly across from me, and there was like a Catalina that was in the backyard that hadn't ran in years. So we would go get in that Catalina, and we would smoke them cigarettes. And my cousin Ernie introduced me to a lot of different things that I in turn introduced my friends to, and my aunt Beverly and my uncle Edwin, they used to just let us go in the attic to do what we wanted to do. My aunt was a firm believer that we were going to do what we were going to do anyway. So if we were going to do it, she would rather have us in the house, up in the attic, so she would know what's going on and so she keep an eye on us because we were going to do it regardless. So she just bit the bullet and just let us go up there in the attic and drink and smoke and do what we do, as long as we don't come out the attic, and we knew not to say nothing to nobody. And because I wasn't raised in the house that went on in. I was in church every Sunday. I was at prayer meeting on Wednesday. I was at vacation Bible school when the summertime come. I was at Sunday school on Sunday morning, and then we were at the regular Sunday service. So I was raised up knowing who God was, and I believed that he was who he said he was. I just didn't believe that he was going to work for me. I grew up thinking that he just wasn't going to work for me, you know? And all my friends, I corrupted them, all the bad habits that they had. They learned from me. I would put them in situations where they maybe have something, but they can't roll it. So they got to call me. See, I wanted to control how they were doing their things, but a lot of them really like to drink alcohol. So that that was just our life. We ride around and we steal bikes, go in people's garages and steal their bikes. And back in the day, it was called Ghost Ride. And I don't know who, if you guys know how to Ghost Ride, but you ride in one bike and you hold on to the other bike handlebars and we ride it back home. We Ghost Ride the bike back home, and we take it apart and we strip it down. And we may do this for like 9, 10 bikes, and then when our bike break down, we just my basement was the storage spot. Was a room in the back that my grandparents never went in. They just didn't go down there. They didn't go back there. So that's where we store all the bike parts, and we would fix bikes right there in the driveway of my house. And then my grandparents, it was a while before they ever noticed that those bikes were down there. And when they finally found out that they was down there, they told me to get them out of there. So we had to get all those frames and sprockets and rims, all that stuff up out of there. And I was about 14, and my house was the house where, people knew I was gonna fight. So if someone comes into our neighborhood, they run and knock on the door, they know I'm gonna come out. And I caught my first assault case at 15. I hit a guy in the eye with a hammer. And I caught my second assault case at 15. Last day of school, I knocked a guy out just because I said I would. And that ended up costing my grandfather. My grandfather knew I was trouble, but he would always say, like, I wouldn't mind him knowing what was going on because I would say I didn't do it. He would say, yeah, you did. So when I knocked that boy out, I went home and said I didn't do it. And my grandfather was like, you know what? I don't think you did that. See, I was expecting him just to assume I did it and it was going to be okay. But it ended up landing me in court, and my grandfather hired an attorney, and the attorney shook one of the witnesses. They said they just didn't know if it was me, but it was a girl I had classes with her. She knew it was me. He couldn't shake her. And that's when my lawyer knew that this dude is lying. So instead of telling my grandfather that I was lying, what he did was he told him it would be best just to go ahead and pay the boy's doctor bills, and they wouldn't put it on my record. So that's what he did. And that just opened me up to just no consequences. So at 17, I was a wrestler in high school. I was pretty good, but I didn't like the school I went to. So I tried. They said I tried to incite a riot. I mean, I wore the rival colors to a pep assembly, and they didn't sit too kindly with that. So I finally end my way up to Bookto High School, which was the worst thing I could have ever did because this is where all my friends go. So I ain't even going to school half the time. I'm going in, signing myself out. And then when I turned 18, I started not going in till 10:30, and I was getting out. I was in OWE, so I was getting out at 11:30 anyway. See, it had been a new substance that had moved into our neighborhood, and I fell right into it. It was an easy way to make money, so I fell into it too. And just before I turned 19 years old, I caught my first felony, my first real adult felony. And I ended up getting probation. I've been on I've been arrested. I got 20 cases. And by the grace of God, I ain't never been to the penitentiary. So by the time I got to these rooms in 1990, I didn't think I had a problem. If they would just stop pulling me over, and stop searching my car and stop doing, it's just stop doing stuff, I wouldn't be a problem for them. See, I came here from 1990 to 2008, and I never even heard the preamble. I never heard how it works. I didn't even know you guys was reading that. All I did here was that I put my paper on that table up there at St. Thomas Hospital. It was a double header. I would sit my paper down, and I go over there and I get a cup of coffee, and I eat some of the donuts, and I go sit on the relapse bench, and I would hang out. It was a 2-hour meeting. You get two signs for the price of one. I got 2 meetings a week to do, and I'm only going to do them on Sunday because I ain't got time for AA all the week. I got business. I got stuff to do. Yeah, and I leave and I come back and I see you guys next Sunday and I do it all over again. And I continue doing what I'm doing. And I'm on probation all the time. All the time. I'm a good candidate for probation because I always complete. And my grandfather was a 32nd degree Mason. So most of the trouble I was getting into when he come to court, somehow I just don't go to jail. Anybody I'm with, they go to jail. I don't go to jail. I get probation. And that's how my life went. And I started having kids when I was in high school, and I met a girl just as I was getting into that trouble. And she suffered from the same thing I did. We had a toxic relationship. We started having kids, and I taught them kids some very, very bad habits. Everything that I did in the house. Anything that went out of the house, they'd be sitting right there. I didn't know what I didn't know. So all my girls wanted a guy that was just like their dad. And all my boys, every one of them has been to the penitentiary at least once because I taught them some very bad habits: to fight every fight, never run, do what you got to do to make money, and so on. So that went on till 1998. In 1998, I met a girl. I was kind of tired of living out the life I was living. In 97, I got a pretty decent job, but I just wasn't able to accumulate money. I was making good money. I just wasn't able to accumulate money. And I wanted something different. I wanted to be out of that relationship with that girl. My kids were old enough to where they could tell me if somebody's touching them, if what's going on. So I left her and got with another lady who just didn't know what I was. She was a square. She was she was at the end of a divorce with her husband. They were about to get divorced, and she moved in with me, and I told her I would protect her. Her husband used to beat on her. And I remember one day we were going to she had three kids, okay? And kid, when I live with a family, blood or not, your kids are my kids. And I'm going to treat them like my kids. I'm going to raise them like my kids. And we went to get Ramir from the dad's house. And Ramir was not his. The other two were, but he wasn't. So she had full custody of him. And they were playing like they weren't going to let him out. And I remember she called me and asked me to come over there and just watch her get him. And when I pulled up, you know, she had gave me his van. I'm driving his van in my name. She did some things she shouldn't have did too, but I didn't care. I'm what I am. And he punched her. And I end up splitting his skull open with a pair of brass knuckles, and I end up going to jail for that. And once again, I'm always a good candidate for probation. So I ended up getting probation again. No consequences. And I'm steady doing what I do. And that same lady, I ended up getting a promotion. And I was making really, really good money. And we were actually buying our second house. We had bought a house, moved, got rid of that one, and got into a second house. And when I got into that house, I just didn't really care about consequences because I didn't really have any. I could do probation over and over again. I know how to beat every test they got. I don't got no reason to stop doing what I'm doing. And I got so much money coming in, and she's got a nice income too, that I don't even see how bad I am. So I'm on my way to work one day, and I make a stop. Well, before I get there, I had started messing around on her. I started cheating on her, and I had ran into a girl that she just kept catching me with. And I went to work one day, and I left the job to go to the girl's house because I work with mentally challenged adults. So when they leave, I can still be on the clock and not be there. I just didn't want to go home. And somehow she found out I wasn't there. So in the morning, I found out that she found out I wasn't there. So I tried to get back to the job, and she had took my keys and locked my car in the garage. And I walked to meet her, and the police pull up. I don't know why, but they pull up and they assess the situation. And when I reach in to grab my keys, they say, "Nope, you can't. We don't got nothing to do with marital property." I told them she got the keys to my job. She threw her keys out. I still don't really know what's going on yet. So I come back to Akron, and then I do a couple of things I shouldn't have did. I take some stuff out the house, and I'm using it for a bartering tool for my keys. And I go back to the house before I go back to work because I got to get dropped back off at work, and the police show up. and they asked me to, step out. And I said, why? They said, because you're going to jail. I said, why? They said, for domestic violence. See, I haven't seen this girl since Friday till I seen her Sunday morning. And when I seen her Sunday morning, I seen her with the police. So I couldn't understand what they were talking about. And I don't know if you guys ever seen Thin Line Between Love and Hate, but she thin line between love and hated herself and beat herself. And she had pictures and everything. And they took me to jail. So once again, I'm locked up and I don't know why. This probably the only time I've ever been in jail and I don't know why. And I managed to get her to admit over the telephone that she was lying and I recorded it. And then they actually listened to the tape. My lawyer sent it out and she wrote a confession saying that she didn't. And my record is so bad, they told her that if she recants her recanted story, they would still prosecute me. And she said, no, he didn't do it. And they let me off. They arrest her. They put her on 6 months of house arrest and 2 months of anger management because it's called making false alarms. And that was the hell. I went through hell with that lady through them 6 months and them 2 months. I went through hell with her. I couldn't do nothing right. Every time I leave the house, she think I'm somewhere I'm not. I can't even go to the backyard. If I go to the backyard, what is she back there? And it just ended up being a bad situation. And then one day I left home and I went to a place before I went to work and the police got behind me and I thought I had a 6-pack of beer in the car and I was cool. If they got me for drinking and driving, I was fine with that. I didn't care about that. That was the small thing. But they didn't pull me over for that. They actually never even took the beer out the car. It was still in the car when I finally got it back out the impound. They were looking for what I came out of that house with and they found it. And they put me in the back of the cruiser and my phone rung and it was my wife and the cop actually answered the phone and put it to my ear. And I told her, I'm gonna be going to jail. I told her what happened. I said, but what I need you to do is I need to go pick up Derek and take Derek to my job so I don't lose my job. And she said, Vic, I'm on my way to work. I said, I don't care about your job. I said, what I need you to do is to go get Derek and take him to my job so I don't lose my job. And she did, and she made it to work. See, I'm selfish, self-centered. I only think about me. I only think about me. If it doesn't benefit Vic is not going to do it. There's no way. I don't care at any cost. I'm going to protect my usage at any cost. So she take him there, she get back to work, and she's either outside that jailhouse waiting for me to be released or she's at work, but she didn't want me to get out and she not be there. So I get out of jail, we go home, I patch it up, I'm gonna be a good boy. And once again, I'm always a good candidate for probation. So they put me on probation again. And 2 months into the probation, I'm not really not doing what I do. I'm just not doing what I do. I'm just waiting for the right moment. And it was a Sunday night. And the girl next door that works in the group home next door, she didn't suspended my license and I ain't allowed to drive no more. At least I thought they were suspended. I ain't allowed to drive no more. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to sacrifice just an easy pullover, but I will drive somebody else's car whose license plate ain't in my name. So I take old girl's car and I go to a place here in Akron. It's called Silver Meadows. And we call it the Silver Ghettos. And if you look like me, you shouldn't be around there after dark. You just shouldn't be. And it's raining and I done grab my coat and I pull up to a stop sign and I have to actually get out of the car because I don't have my glasses. I can't see. So I want to make sure I'm about to turn on the right street and I make the turn. And when I make the turn, the police pull me over right there. I see the lights. And I remember about this coat that I got. There's something in this coat. So as they go back to the car, I shove stuff down in the girl's seat. And when they come back and ask me to step out the car, I tell them, whatever you find in the car, it's not mine. I said, I don't know anything about this car. I'm just borrowing it. I don't have any idea what you're going to find. And of course, they find what they're looking for. And off to jail I go. They didn't tow the car, left it sitting right there. And in Kent, here in Akron, in Kent, you can bail out of jail for $125 that night. So I bond out for $125 that night. My buddy come pick me up. He takes me back to the car. I get back in the car and I go around the corner to the gas station and buy a 6 pack of beer and go back to work. Because I'll only drink beer if it's the last option that I got, and I really won't do it then. And but it was the last option that I had. So I get the 6 pack, I go back to work. Old girl is screaming and yelling at me about her car because the police, not only did they call her about the car, they called my job and told them that I had abandoned a client. See, when I left a client alone. So I go back in, I think everything's okay. And my boss show up at the door and she knocks and I say, hey, what's going on? She tells me, you know what's going on. I said, is it over? She said, yeah, it's over. So I packed my stuff, called the same guy that came pick me up. He comes, take me to his house. And I'm trying to hide out from my wife. I don't want to tell her that I lost my job. You know, that's the last thing. I just went through this case. She just damn near lost her job trying to save my job by getting somebody to my job so I can do their shift while the whole deal. And so she shows up there the next morning and we go home and she's pissed. We smooth it over just enough for her to be pissed enough to not really want to talk, but it's not as bad as it's going to get. And that was November 2022. And in 2021, I was in an accident. I flipped my car over, broke my septum, a car T-boned me, and I almost got killed. And I have been going to court about that money. As long as I was working, I didn't really press about that money. But the minute I lost that job, all I could think about was that money. And I start telling the lawyer, if you don't settle the case, I'll settle the case. Don't worry about it. And he ended up settling that case in January for $33,000. And I can't handle that kind of money. I can't handle it. I don't know how to handle that much money, but I'm sure gonna try. And by March, I was damn near broke. You know, I had resorted to wait until my wife go to work, hanging out in the big, go touch down, come back home, and no food in the house. And I got all this money and we ain't got no food in the house. And my kids knock on the door and they like, we hungry. And I slide $100 bill under the door and I would say, you know, order some food, keep the change, give it as a tip, but don't come knock back at this door. And I may go make a run, come back and do, because I'm doing what I do. And they knock on the door and they'd be like, we hungry. And I slide another $100 bill under the door. And I would tell them, order some food, keep the change, give it as a tip, but don't come back to this door. And then when my wife show up, I would move the party down to the porch. It was enclosed. We used it as living space. And I moved the party down there and I'm steady watching and listening to see who coming down the stairs for the rest of the night. And then I do this, and this is a repeated pattern. I do this over and over every day. I'm doing the same thing because I'm not working. And she come home from work one day and she like, we need to go buy some stuff for the house. And I had to tell her, I don't got that kind of money no more. I might have had $8,000 left, maybe. And she was pissed. We split. I gave her money. And then I couldn't wait for her to go to work that day so I could do it over again. I don't got the capacity to stop. I don't know how to stop. See, I know when I'm gonna start. I just don't know when I'm gonna stop. That's my problem. And 6 months later, I get another check for $8,000. It come in the mail, just out the blue. Same accident. And she made sure she got her half of that $8,000. And I was happy to give it to her because I could not wait for her to go to work. And as soon as she walked out that door, I do what I do. And when she come home, I can barely breathe. I thought I was dying. She thought I was dying. I can barely suck air. And she stayed up with me, held me all night long. And when the morning came and I could actually breathe and I was okay, she looked at me and she said, Vic, I am not about to stay here and watch you kill yourself. And I didn't hear that. What I heard was the keys hitting the door as she was closing it to go to work so I can go do what I do all over again. And I woke up one day and I could hear, I could smell, life was good. I wasn't all messed up. And I came downstairs and I said, where's the furniture? It's like it's furniture around here missing. And she said, Vic, I told you that I was leaving you. She had started borrowing my pickup truck and leaving me the Explorer, but I didn't know why, and I didn't really care why because I didn't think enough to even check it out. I just want you to go so I can go do what I do. And as I start to get upset, she had learned how to deal with me. She knew exactly what to do. She threw me an envelope. And I said, what's this? She said, those are your truck payments. She had been paying my truck. I had been giving her the money and she had been putting it in an envelope because she knew if she gave me that envelope, if this situation was to happen, that I would leave. And that's exactly what I did. I left and I didn't come back till that money was gone. And when I finally returned back to the house, we had to have a hard conversation about how we can't pay for this house and we're going to need to give it back. So we called Ray. Ray agreed to just take the house back with no repercussions. He won't put it on our credit or anything. And that's what we did. So we started packing the house up and making plans to leave. And when Ray came to get the keys, he said, Vic, where are you going to go? I said, I'm going to go back to my grandmother's house. He said, I don't want you to do that, Vic. You're a good guy. He said, you shouldn't have to do that. And he said, I got an apartment. He said, here's the keys. Go down there. It's on Fest. Take a look at it. If you like it, can you get gas and electric in your name? I said, no. He said, don't worry about that. We'll just come up with one payment. We'll just one solid payment. You'll pay me and it'll be good and you're good. So if you like it, go ahead and move in. And I moved in that apartment. I didn't give that guy a dime for 2 years. Stayed in that apartment for 2 years and then give him a dime. I don't got the capacity. I ain't got the mental capacity to pay a bill. And I was working at JNR Engineering, and one day I went out and I just happened to grab my pocket Bible. For some reason, don't know why, just it looked good to put in my pocket. And I started reading it in between rims. And it was a Friday. I never forget. It was a Friday. And I finished my changeover and I opened up the book and I read it. And I can't tell you what I read, but I prayed. I said, God, whatever it is you're going to do with me, please do it because I can't do this no more. And the very next Friday, I went to jail for trying to shoot a guy. He had stabbed me. I took his money and I wasn't going to ever pay him. I never was going to pay him his money. I was going to beat him up and keep it because that's what I do. And he stabbed me. And we both ended up going to jail. And I done bought this gun off the street, so I don't know if it's got a body on it or not. And when they run the ballistics on the gun, I guess it come back cool. They run my hands because eventually they gave me a signature bomb after saying they wasn't. But while I was in there trying to get my grandmother to put her house up for me, see, this house has been up for me. This is my get out of jail free card. It always has been. So I could call her and tell her they'll let me out if you put your house up for me. She said, I'm not putting my house up for you. See, she's been dealing with me since I was young. She done with me. And my grandfather dead now. Ain't no get out of jail free. Ain't no getting out of jail free no more. So she tell me you can call here all day, every day, much as you want. I'll pay any bill that comes, any amount of bill that phone bill is. She said, but I'm not putting my house up for you. See, she knew where I would be. If she got me out, she didn't know what I was going to do. But as long as I was in jail, she knew right where I was. She could sleep that night. And I got pissed and I hung up the phone. And I called that same friend that I told you was coming to bail me out, coming to take me to get the car and come take me here, hiding at his house. He said, I'll put my house up for you, Vic. Just tell me what to do. And and then God showed up in the jailhouse for me. I heard my name called from out in the hallway. And he said, Victor Thomas. I said, Danny, hold on. I'll call you back. They calling me in the hallway. And I stepped out there and the lady said, here's the paperwork for your signature bond. I had been to court 5 times. That was my 5th time that day going to court. The fifth time I went, and they told me no. She said, I said, they said I can't have a signature bond. She said, do you want to go home or not? I said, yeah. She said, when it's signed the paper. And I got a sister that loved me to death. The same sister that I live with now. She loved me to death. And she was trying to put that money together to get her brother out of jail. And when they released me from jail, I found my sister and I told her, you know what? I don't need that much money, but I need this much. That's all I need. And soon as she gave me that money, I was right back doing what I do. I don't got the capacity to stop. I don't know how. I don't know what the word stop means. And I'm right back doing what I do. So I'm moving with my granny. I go back to the house, get all my stuff. The guy that I was getting the house from had his guys help me move out, paid me to leave. And I told him I got a couple more things in here and I'll be back to get them later. And he said, okay. And when I went back, he had changed the locks. He was done with me. I burned another bridge. So I move in with my grandmother and I don't sleep. I still end up maintaining that job, managed to keep that job, but I don't sleep. And I keep telling my grandmother I don't sleep. So I would stay up for 4 or 5 days straight. And then all of a sudden, I would go to sleep and I would wake up a day and a half later. And I end up losing that job. And so I started working with a guy that did tree work. And my grandmother loved that guy because at least he kept me busy. I would leave at 7 o'clock in the morning and I would get back around about 8 at night. And I may stay up all night and do what I do, but I would be at work at 7 in the morning. And my grandmother loved that guy because she knew that he was at least keeping me busy. And I have a little baby at this time. And I started just wanting to spend time with my baby. As it started to get cold going into October, I moved over there, September, October. I moved with my ex-girl and her mom and my little baby. I just want to spend time with my baby because I seen my lawyer and my lawyer told me that she had seen my record and asked me I ain't never been to the penitentiary. I said, no, I've never been. She said, well, you going this time. She said, there's nothing I can do for you. She said, have you seen your record? I told her I live my record. She said, well, you already know there's nothing I can do for you. So I started living my life like I was going to the penitentiary. And I was just hanging out with my baby and I'm talking about how I'm gonna go to the penitentiary. And her mom asked me, she said, Vic, have you prayed about this? I said, no. She said, well, I want you to pray on it and let it go. So I pray and I let it go. And like day or two later, I'm back talking about it again. And she said, Vic, I don't want you to pray no more. It kind of pissed me off. Who are you to tell me what to do? Like you got the man only lying to God. That's what I'm thinking. She said, no, Vic, you want to fix your own problems. So let God go fix somebody else's. And it hit me. So I prayed on it and I let it go and I didn't say another word about it. And on the 27th of January, 2007, I walked into the court. They asked me if I wanted to say, they would only give me a signature. I mean, a pre-sentence investigation. They wouldn't offer me nothing else. They didn't give me I had the gun. I'm a felon. They don't really have to fight that. I'm guilty. It's just what's going to happen with me. And I said some, that old, I'm sorry to tie the court up with all this trouble and blah, blah, blah. And the judge cut me off and I got the right judge. Her name is Jane Bond. She known in Akron. You going to jail with her. She said, I don't think you're sorry at all, Mr. Thomas. She said, because you never said that you were shooting that gun. We have the ballistics that show that you were shooting that gun, and it was kids out there. So, and I didn't care nothing about that. And she said, I'm going to give you two years in the state correctional facility. And standing in my shoes right there, I said, good. I can go to the penitentiary and maybe I can come out and have a chance to get my life back together. Jail was a good option for me. And she said, I don't even know why I'm considering doing this. And that's when God showed up. See, God been showing up for me forever. He always was showing up for me. He had been waiting for me to show up for him. And she gave me 18 months of paper and told me if I step back up into this courtroom for any reason, traffic ticket, I'm going to jail. And the lawyer told me the cat ain't got no more lives. In the last case I had caught, I had a probation officer that couldn't put me in jail. And God made me laugh. He gave me the same lady I had last time. So I already know what to do with her. But I failed 3 on her and she can't deal with me. She couldn't put me in jail last time. So she get rid of me. She give me somebody else. This lady, she's a hard ass. She known for putting you in jail if you fail, if you do anything. But I'm a nice guy. She liked me. She just couldn't do it. So she passed me off to somebody else. See, all this is God, and I just don't know it. And I get to a girl, and this girl ride with me. She just continue. I just steady failing, steady failing. I go in there one day and she say, I am going to lose my job if I don't put you in jail for failing these tests. And my bright idea was to not do nothing 7 days before I go. See, the idea of stopping doing what you're doing, Vic, never crossed my mind. My idea was do it a little smarter. And in about 35 minutes after that, I was back doing what I was doing. And I went down there the next day and I waited to see her. I don't know if you ever been on probation, but you can't just go down there and demand to see nobody. So I had to wait. And she finally saw me and she said, Hey, Mr. Thomas. I said, You always say you can help me. I said, I need your help because I can't do this no more. And she said, That's what I've been waiting for you to say. She said, well, I'm gonna send you to the ADM, get an assessment. We're gonna get you an IBH. It's gonna take about 2 months, but what I need you to do is go make sure you take these tests. And no matter if they fail or not, it's important that we have them on file because we know you're going to IBH. So you tell somebody like me, I got 2 months, I want every day of it. And about 2 weeks went by, and I'll never forget, it was on a Tuesday. My unemployment check had just came. And the phone rung and I'm doing what I do and I can't even talk. And my grandmother know that if I don't answer the phone to tell them I'm not there. And if she's not going to come upstairs because if she come upstairs, she's got to open up the door. And if she see what's going on in the door, which she already know what's going on, she got to put me out. And she know I ain't got nowhere to go. So she ain't going to open the door because she don't want to put me out. And I answered the phone today, just out the blue. I don't never answer the phone, but I picked the phone up. And it's IBH, and they tell me they got a bed ready for me on February 21st, 2008, and asked me if I want it. And I said, yeah, I'll be there. And that was my daughter's birthday. That baby I was telling you about, that was her birthday. That was her second birthday. And I luckily I had some money left. I go get the things I need and I get ready to go to rehab. And on the way there, my baby mom asked me, she said, Are you really gonna go to rehab on your daughter's birthday? I said, if I don't go right now, I ain't gonna have a daughter. My daughter ain't gonna have a dad. So I get there on a Thursday and I walk through the door and I say, well, it's over. And I'm ready. And I go to a meeting Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And I come home Saturday night from the bus, bring us back, the little van bring us back, and the house smell like a French whorehouse. You got people with their good clothes on, and everybody running around looking for the iron. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, it's a big meeting tomorrow. All the girls are going to be there. There's going to be people from and they all excited about it. I'm like, what you mean people from everywhere? Oh, man, it's going to be so big. I said, I can't go to that meeting. Johnny said, why? I said, because they're going to know I'm in here, Johnny. Johnny looked at me like I was crazy. I said, they're going to know I'm in here, Johnny. I said, I can't go to that meeting. He said, Vic, you're going to go to jail if you don't go to that meeting. You know that, right? I said, Johnny, well, I go to jail before I let them know I'm up in rehab. See, that's why I tell everybody who I am, because I was the last one to know who I was. So about 2 hours go by and I'm kicking around the idea, do I want to go to the penitentiary or do I just want to go to this meeting? And the penitentiary was starting to sound good to me because I'm damn sure don't want to tell nobody that I'm what I am, even though everybody know. But I finally come to the conclusion. And I come up to Johnny. I say, Johnny, I'm going to have to go to that meeting, ain't I? He said, yeah, you're going to have to go. So it's like a 2-minute walk, literally a 2-minute walk. I'm trying to take the long way and stretch it out an hour. So I'm dragging and I'm taking it, but it's a 2-minute walk. So when you get to the doors, it's a set of doors, a little hallway, and another set of doors. I walk to those two set of doors and the lights turn out. Not for me, not for you, but for me. It's my first spiritual experience. And I can see straight into the door like a light is shining on somebody. And I walk over and I say, Tyrone, where you been, man? He said, I've been in these rooms. From that moment on, I did what they said do. I got the strict instructions. Oh, it wasn't soft. They told me to shut up and sit down. If they wanted to know how to drink, they'd ask me. If they wanted to know what I was thinking, they would tell me. Like I went through that. I went through that rehab. I got out after 64 days, and I didn't have an identity. I didn't have an identity. I went where they said go. I got in the car. They said go in. They picked me up. They took me everywhere. Where we going? You don't need to know. Shut up. So I get in the back of the car and I shut up. They taught me these things called the 12 steps to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they walked me through them. They taught me how to sponsor people, so I did it because they said I would stay sober if I did. They taught me how to share meetings, how to share in a meeting, how to shut up when you don't need to be talking to me, how to shut up. You don't need to say everything, Vic. Somebody already said that. And life was good. I got the 6 years. And that 6 years, that's the last chip I took. And then that was 2015. So in 2017, no, that was 2014. 2015, my son got murdered on my 7th year. I was heading into my 7th year, and my son got murdered. He got shot in the head. Then my grandmother died in 2016. Between the time my grandmother died into 2017, I lost 15 family members. It was a big fire here in Akron, real big one. My grandbabies burned up in that fire, and I'm not praying no more. I don't trust God. I don't want nothing to do with him. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. I don't want to talk to y'all. I'm okay. I'm cool. My sponsor telling me, you gotta let us help you with this stuff, Vic. Help me with what? I'm cool. And I'm chasing my son around. My son is just totally messed up. I can't even go to work. I get calls from work. I got to go find him. He threatening to kill himself. He trying to do everything he said can to self-destruct. I'm chasing him around. My job is so lenient with me that they ain't even firing me. They're just saying, just go, Vic. Just go. Just go. Go find him. Go get him. Go be with him. In 2018, my mom died. They told me my mom had 6 months to live, and she died in 6 days, and I wanted my 6 months. And then in 2018, before my daughter died, she had a stroke. I remember my daughter called me at work and said, "This Ashley dead." I said, "Stop playing with me." And then that insidious insanity that I could pick up, that it would be okay, that I could make the pain go away. It'd be cool. It won't be as bad as it was last time. So I picked up. I came to 4.5 years later. And in them last 6 months of that 4.5 years, if you want to know the truth about me, check the mailbox. See, I'm that alcoholic that had to lose it all. I lost every house, every car, the girl, everything. Everything. I lost it all. And I kept telling people I'm about to get off these streets. So all through them last 6 months, it was just hell. The last thing I had was that car, and they took that car in November. And on December the 6th, my grandson died of SIDS. And that's 2022. And I didn't handle that death like I had been handling the rest of them. I started really saying, I'm getting off these streets. I just wanted to make sure my daughter was okay before I go. And I went through the rest of December, and a miracle happened. I made an appointment to get an assessment at IBH, and I went to the appointment. See, I would use that death would have been the reason why I didn't go. But I went. And once again, they told me to be 2 months. But they was going to try. I told that man my story. And I told him I had to get off them streets. And he said, I'm going to see if I can get you in by the end of the week. And they called me on Friday. And he said he can't get me in this week because I'll be there on Monday the 9th. January 9th, 2023. Could I be there? And I said, I'll be there. My daughters went out and got everything I need, and I went and did a tree job, and I'm a good alcoholic. So on Saturday, I throw myself a going away party. I'm going to rehab party by myself because I'm isolated. Don't nobody want to be around me, and I don't want nobody around me. And I woke up Sunday. Sunday was the 8th. And I didn't do nothing Sunday. And that's really my real sobriety date, if I was to say as far as dates. But I woke up that morning and I had the shovel in my hand and I wanted to dig, but I didn't want to dig. I wanted to dig so bad, but I didn't want to dig so bad. And then God showed up. I called my daughter. I told her, will you please come get me? Bring me to your house. And she showed up quick and took me to her house. And I went and I slept all day Sunday. And I woke up and I walked into that rehab on that Monday. And I said, once again, who it's over. And that's my sobriety date, 1/9/23. And I got into that rehab and there's only one number I can remember by heart. It was my sponsor's number. And I called him and I said, I'm back in rehab. He said, Vic, you lost the time. You didn't lose the knowledge. Now start applying it. And we're going to start back over at step one. And that's exactly what we did. He walked me back through the steps the way he did the first time. I got out that rehab in 28 days. And I didn't think Zoom would work for me. I was still doing some in-person meetings. You know, I got out of Zoom and I went back to that house that I'm about to lose. And I didn't want to be there. So the first thing I did was got the hell out of there. I walked in, put the bags down, and got the hell up out of there. I went and stayed with my daughter all day. And then I called my sponsor and we went to a meeting. And he dropped me back off at the house. And I woke up the next day and that house is bad for me. You know, I watched my granddaddy die in there. I watched my grandmama die in there. And it was just bad. And I did so much in there that I woke up and I got the hell out of there. I called my son. My son came pick me up. And I rode with him all day. And then he dropped me off at a meeting. Then I came back to the house. And the next day I woke up and I went to my sister and I told my sister, I said, I don't want to stay in that house no more. And she said, you don't have to. So I moved in with her. I ain't really go back to the house much, but to grab some things in and out of there. But most of it I left. I'm the alcoholic that lost it all. And when I say all, I mean all. But I didn't want to get high. So I didn't think Zoom would work for me. So I was still doing in-person meetings. And I got into a meeting called virtual. And I go in, I don't turn my camera on. You know, I don't talk much, you know, but I would talk to certain people and I may turn my camera on when we're in the parking lot, when it's just certain people in there. But I don't really talk. Once the meeting starts, shut up. Because I remember they told me to shut up. So I shut up and I sit and I listen. I do this for a couple months. And I meet Val in there. And Val became a good friend to me. That's my sister. And she brought me to Unity. And when I first got to Unity, you know, they play a music and I don't, you know, this ain't AA. I don't know what this is. It's because I don't know. I'm contemporary investigation. I don't know. But I keep coming. Just keep coming. Keep hanging out. And then I meet Nate. And Nate tell me a story in a meet, not to me, but to the group about his son and what happened to him. And it opened me up. Here goes somebody that I can talk to. See, because I don't know people that done lost kids. I don't know people that done went through these kind of deaths. I don't know them. I don't know who to talk to. I won't go to grief counseling. I don't know. But here goes somebody I can talk to. And that opened me up. And I became a part of, not just at the meeting, I became a part of. And Unity, Jeff, Peter, all them guys, they took me in and they loved on me. Even if they didn't know I needed to be loved on. They loved on me. They taught me what the we was. I finally found the we. And I stopped going to in-person meetings and only started doing Zoom meetings. I was doing 15 meetings a day at some point because I don't work. I was doing 15 meetings a day. I'm meetings all night, meetings all day. And then I got the privilege to start doing service in Unity. They gave me a service position. And then they started letting me open the room up some mornings. Jeff started letting me open the rooms up, and he would come in every now and again, but then he finally just started letting me open it up because he finally knew I was going to be there. And then at 11 months sober, just before 11 months, I'm talking to a guy named Caravan Michael, and he's telling me a story about a guy that he's working with. And I'm talking to him. I'm saying, man, this dude is you, Vic. This dude is just like you. So I call my sponsor because I ain't allowed to sponsor or lead behind no podium until I get a year. But I tell him that I found somebody, and my sponsor said, man, don't you let that boy go. He said, you sponsor him, and if anybody asks you why you sponsor him before your year is up, you tell them to come talk to me. And that boy became the bright spot in my recovery. It elevated me to a whole new level when I started helping him. And then they started a little caravan where I was sending meetings out to our friends. And then I had about 20 friends on there. And I said, Mike, this is yours. You take the caravan. This is your service work. Don't worry about nobody coming to the meeting. If you send a meeting out and don't one person come, it's not about that. It's about putting the hand of AA out for somebody else. And he took that thing farther than I could have ever took it. I think it's 150 people on there now. He took it farther than I ever would have. And I just kept on working and working with him, and I got God reliant. I started knowing that God had me. See, I came in these rooms in January believing in a God I would not trust. It wasn't believing in God, wasn't never my problem. It was trusting him that had became my problem. I wouldn't trust him. Now I'm God reliant. I think I was 14 months sober. If I needed money, something would happen. My uncle would call me like, go ride on the ice cream truck. My buddy would call me, be like, we got a tree job. And it wasn't nothing that I was been planning on doing every day. I only do it when God presents the opportunity. And when he takes it away, I'm cool. So I went 14 months and I didn't even work, only when he allowed me to. Never needed money, never needed for anything. And at 14 months sober, just before I got 15 months sober, my phone rings, and it's a job that I had in 2018. And they say, do you want your job back? That's God. I can't make this up. So I take the job, and that's where I work now. And I wasn't even trying to get a job. I wasn't looking for one. I know today that whatever I go through, God is going to walk me through it. I learned about the acid test. Being able to stay sober through all conditions, and that's what I missed. When the conditions got bad, I ran. I tucked my tail. And I ran, and I started resting on my laurels and thinking that I had done enough and it was going to keep me sober. The truth is I was headed for a relapse for 3 years before I picked up. So I love you guys. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to say one more thing because I don't know who in this room, and I don't know how my story may affect or what somebody may hear, but it's on page 23. This is like my everyday reader. It says, these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. If you ask him why he started on the last bender, the chances are he will offer you one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have certain plausibilities, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc that alcoholics' drinking bouts create. They sound like the philosophies of a man having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. And if you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off, become irritated, and refuse to talk. Once in a while, he may tell you the truth, and the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more idea why he took that first drink that you have. And what I'm saying is this: I can tell you about my son, my grandmama, The 15 people, my grandkids, my daughters, none of that really was a sufficient enough reason for me to pick up. So why did you pick up, Vic? Because I wanted to get high more than I wanted to stay sober, period. I don't make no excuses today for nothing. I know who I am and what I am, and I'm not going to lie to myself today. I'm not going to find a reason of why I did anything. I did it because I wanted to. You didn't make me. Did nobody else make me? The death didn't make me. I did what I wanted to do, and I got what I got. So today I ain't got no excuses. Like my brother said, I ain't got no excuses to pick up today. Through all circumstances, I can stay sober with the help of God and with the help of y'all. So I hope I said something to help somebody, because y'all sure helped me. I love y'all.